Hey guys, welcome back to Magic TV. My name's Craig. It is 12 o'clock on a Sunday, which means it's time for a Q&A. Now, this is where I take all the questions that you've asked over the course of the week and I try to answer them to the best of my ability. Now, there's a few things that I want to say. First of all, I want to say thank you. Thank you so much to absolutely everybody that subscribed to this channel, watched any videos on this channel. I really appreciate it. Honestly, if it wasn't for you guys, Magic TV would not exist. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you. Now, if you've never seen a Q&A before, the idea is that I take all the questions that you've asked over the week and I answer them. Now, I typically film these on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. Today is Tuesday afternoon. If you don't get the questions in on time, I'm not going to be able to answer them. If I miss your question for whatever reason, I apologize. Put it down below on this video and I will get to it the following week. Now, you're getting my raw and filtered opinions. I have not actually read these questions yet. I don't know what you guys have been asking this week. If I think a question needs a longer answer, I'll create a separate video for it at some point in the future. But typically, I'm able to get through most questions. Now, with that being said, there's a lot this week, and I've got to leave for a gig in a bit. So we're going to get straight into it. Without further ado, let's get into this week's Q&A. So the first question is not a question, it's a statement from Ben Smith, who says, on the topic of Doctor Who, I got booked for a private party in the summer for some very high-profile hosts, only to find out it was David and Georgia Tennant. As a long-term Doctor Who fan, I was in my element, and I ended up performing for them, Freema Agaman, Russell T Davies, Peter Capaldi, and Stephen Moffat, and that is amazing. And I'm now officially jealous of you, Ben, so thank you for making me feel very, very jealous. I wish I could perform for Doctor Who. That's incredible. Well done. Okay, so the next question, a couple of questions here, is from Andy Putt, who said, I was too late with the questions last week, but you're on time this week. Yes, you are. 2 weeks ago, I told you a Dutch saying that something was in kids' shoes. It means it's in the first stages of development, so by not a finished product. Got it. But let's go to the questions, because my school grades in Dutch and English were terrible when I was in school. I can't even speak Dutch, so you're doing better than me. So, first question. With all of the Craig Petty releases in 2024 now out, will you do a list of your favourite own releases? I believe in alphabetical order: The Bag Reborn, Card Academy, Cheetah Chips, Destiny Deal, Evoke, Focus, Heroes and Villains, Infinity Deck, Level Up, Magic Button, Mind Blocks, Mirage Deck Project, Superimpose, Svengali Deck Project, The Purse-Frame Project, Toys. Wow, there's a lot there. I didn't count Easy Times because I'm not sure if it's also you. You're right. It's really Rich's. But the question, can you let the viewers of Magic TV make their own list with all your releases so we can see Craig versus the viewers, the Craig Petty 2004 release list? I'd love to see how different those lists will be. Absolutely, I'd love to do that. Now, I am doing a list. I'm ranking all of my 2024 releases in order, and that's going to be coming out over the Christmas period. But if anybody wants to leave a comment down below and let me know what the top 10 releases are that I've brought out this year, I will catalogue all of your results and I will put them together, and I will do a separate video of what the people think about the tricks that I've released this year. And if you want to put any comments into those as well and let me know why you think this trick's best or this trick's not as good, then let me know and I'll put all of that together into a video. That's a really good idea. Thank you, Andy. Okay, so the next question from Andy Putt is, if I'm correct, the last year's your releases, the number were, in 2022, you had 14 releases. In 2023, you had 14 releases. In 2024, you had 16 releases. Will you break your 2024 release total in 2025? I really hope not. 16 is too many, I think. And I really aim to get it at about 12, between 10 and 12. The trouble is you never know when people are going to be releasing these products. Like a lot of the stuff that I film, it's been filmed years before, and then I don't know when it's coming out. I try to aim for 10 to 12. I think that the last few weeks there's been a lot of Craig Petty, and then we went through the summer and there wasn't really any, so it's kind of like waiting for a bus. You know, you kind of wait ages for a bus and then 5 buses turn up at once. It's the same thing. Like over December, I had The Bag, I had Focus, I had the Purse-Frame Project, Heroes and Villains, I had Cheetah Chips. There's a lot that came out in the tail end of the year. which is fine. But ideally, for me, it's not about the amount of releases. It's about whether they're quality or not, and they add to the industry. And I'd like to see 10 to 12 maybe next year. I'd like to actually drop that total down, but we'll see. Okay, we have one final question from Andy Putt, who says, congratulations with your 2024 year with the last Focus. It will be a 2025 buy from me, since I don't have any Craig Petty budget anymore in 2024 if I still want to live. Totally get that. Totally get that. Christmas is not the best time to release a product, to be perfectly honest. It's okay. It's pretty good. And Focus has gone phenomenally well. I'm very, very happy with how people have, how people have reacted to it. I genuinely believe that Focus is my best trick that I bought out in the whole of 2024. I really believe that. And the feedback that I'm getting from people that have bought it and they're really, really happy, that fills me with a lot of joy, to be perfectly honest, because every time you put a trick out into the world, you worry. You worry, are people going to like it? Are people not going to like it? There's only so much you can do, and then you just kind of have to hope for the best. And it's looking really good with Focus, which is great. So I'm very happy that people like it. Okay, so the next question is Dylan Williams Magic, who says, hi Craig, thanks for all you do. For this week, I have a few quick questions, although I only see one. I only see one question, weirdly. I only see one question. I'm very, very sorry. So, very sorry about that. I only see one question. And the question is, what is your favorite way to get a peek? My favorite way to get a peek, honestly, is either with a Peak wallet. And typically with a Peak wallet, depending on where I am, I will use my everyday wallet, which is here. Here's my everyday wallet, which is the Orphic wallet, and I'll get the Peak in this section right here. And typically the way I get the Peak is I put the thing I'm peeking away, and as I have them hold their hand out, that's when I've got the Peak. I just get the Peak right here. That's probably my favorite way of getting a Peak. Or I use the Stealth Assassin wallet in gigs sometimes. If I haven't got a wallet with me, or it doesn't make sense in the context of the routine to use a wallet, I will do one of a couple of things. Sometimes it will be a center tear. I love the center tear, I really do. I think it's a great utility move, and I don't think a lot of people do it these days, but the center tear is fantastic. My favorite peak using a business card and no kind of thing to put it in is the Acidus Novus peak, I think it's called. I very much like that. I think that's a very, very direct peak. It works really well. Sometimes I'll just switch the card. So if I've got a stack of business cards, I'll have someone sign a card and or put whatever I want to on the card, and I'll just switch it as I put it down on the table or bury it in the middle, and then I'll just palm the card off that they actually wrote on. But typically, more often than not, if I'm in a gig, it's going to be the Orphic one. Okay, so the next question is Darren Gregg, who says, what's the best trick you know that can be performed over the phone, preferably by voice, but text message is okay too? I think screen test works really well over the phone, which I reviewed recently. I think screen test is brilliant, and over the phone just works perfectly. It works great in real life. It works great over Zoom, but by gosh, over the phone, it works fantastic. I also think that one of my favorite routines to perform over the phone is a piece of kind of propless mentalism that was created by Joel Dickinson. And Joel created this wonderful piece of propless mentalism that's really, really strong. And he taught it on the Netrix. So if you're in the silver level of the Netrix, you can go look up Joel's masterclass, and he taught it in there. But it's basically a way of having somebody think of a number on a die. So they think of they imagine rolling a die. They think about rolling a number, and they think about what that die is made of. And they never tell you anything. And you tell them exactly what the die is made of. You tell them the number they rolled, and you tell them the hand that they're holding the die in, and this all takes place in their imagination, and you can do it perfectly over the phone, and it's brilliant. It's Ryland's favorite impromptu trick, and it's one of the best things I've ever seen. A lot of people don't do it, but it's really good. So those are the two that I would probably say are my favorite tricks to do over the phone. There's a lot that doesn't work over the phone. There's a lot that does. But those two are my favorite. Okay, so the next question is from Divishan Magician, who says, I'm doing a lot of phone stuff at the moment at gigs because it suits my age and my character. So I'm starting to try and bring in a lot of phone stuff into my act and brand myself as more of a tech magician. Do you think this is fine or unfair, as David Penn has come up with that brand first and I am in his area and I go to the same wedding fairs as him? I'm not doing it to copy him, I'm just doing it because it fits my age. But the main reason he might not be happy is because we're both in Northampton. Do you think I should check with him first to see if it's fine, or am I overthinking it? Great question. Very, very, very good question. Not too sure of the answer, to be perfectly honest. I'm being completely honest here. I don't know. Because, look, Dave is a really friendly guy and he would help anybody, but he's quite ruthless when it comes to being in business and doesn't like being copied in any way, shape or form. The very first dealing that I had with David Penn way before we did the Wizard product review, before me and Dave got to know each other at all, before I was associated with World Magic Shop, I had just set up my first business, my first magic business with my business partner at the time, a guy called Ethan. And we'd set up this website called Magic for Hire. And we had paid somebody to write the website for us and create the website. We paid 2 different people. And the website had elements of David Penn's website copied in terms of text. And we weren't even aware of that. You know, we paid somebody to do this website and we didn't even know. Not the whole website was copied, but I think there was two paragraphs, perhaps 3 paragraphs. And the first dealing I had with David Penn was I was with my business partner, Ethan, and David rang up Ethan, and Ethan was his stage name. His real name was Steve, and nobody knew that. And Dave rang up, the phone rang, Ethan's phone rang, and he answered it, and he put it on speakerphone, and it was David Penn. I didn't know who it was at the time. It was David Penn saying, "Nice try, Stephen, now take it down." And he was like, "What are you talking about?" He was like, "Nice try, Stephen, take it down." And basically threatened legal action if we didn't have our web team remove those 3 paragraphs immediately. And he was very quick to threaten legal action. And at the time, I didn't know David Penn. I knew nothing about business really. And, we kind of raced and had a go at the guy that wrote the website and who had cut corners. Now, Dave could have dealt with that in a very, very different way. And he chose not to, which is fine. That's his prerogative. However, that story should tell you how protective David Penn is about his brand and his intellectual property and who he is. Like I say, he can be very friendly, he can be very helpful, but at the same time, you don't want to screw with his business in any way, shape or form. He spent a lot of time and effort branding himself as the tech magician. Now, he's not the only tech magician, Noel Coulter is the iPad magician. He gets booked an awful lot to do textile magic. There's a lot of tech magicians out there. There's a lot of people that have pioneered it. But Dave has spent a lot of time and effort rebranding himself from David Penn the Illusionist to David Penn the Tech Magician. And now you see, if you Google, I've never tried this, but let me Google it. I'm going to book Tech Magician. And the first thing that comes up, this is interesting. Okay. The first thing that comes up is a link through to a company house limited company called Tech Magician Limited, which is kind of interesting. There you go. and that was incorporated in 2017. But when you actually start looking at Tech Magician, David Penn comes up very near the top. He's in like the second or the third link. And obviously, as you could imagine, Keelan comes up. He kind of pioneered the whole thing. So there's a few people that come up that have obviously specialized over the years in tech magic, but David Penn is right up there. So to answer your question, I have a feeling, especially as you're in the same area and you go to the same wedding fairs, I would be careful. I think Dave might be unhappy if you're trying to replicate his brand. Now, I'm not saying that that's what you're doing, but maybe you can, I know you do a lot of phone stuff. Maybe you can kind of brand it in a completely different way. So instead of branding it as a tech magician, you can come up with something else. I don't know. I mean, the best thing to do is to just call him, although I think I know how that conversation is going to go. I'm fairly sure I know how this conversation is going to go, but feel free to call him and ask him his opinion. The bottom line is it's your business. You can do what you want to. Nobody can copyright tech magicians. There's a ton of tech magicians. So ultimately you can do what you want to, but it's a very small industry. You don't want to go annoying people for no particular reason, especially at some point in the future. You might need those people to help you with something. Especially as you're an apprentice in the magic circle at the moment. So there's a lot of factors that you need to consider. Ultimately, at the end of the day, it's your business. You can do what you want to. My advice would be to maybe consider branding it still in a technology type of way, but maybe not exactly tech magic, and instead kind of go in a slightly different direction. But that's just my opinion. Okay, so the next question is from Punkala, who says, "Hi Craig, my question is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 challenge. What's your favourite card trick that uses 1 card, 2 cards, 3 cards, 4 cards, and 5 cards?" Bloody hell. Okay. 1 card would have to be... I'm going to assume it's what the audience perceives as opposed to what is actually the case. Because there's certain tricks where the audience thinks there's 4 cards, but there's really 7 or 8 or whatever the case may be. So with 1 card, I would say a Torn and Restored card. And my favourite Torn and Restored card is Tommy Wonder's handling of J.C. Wagner's Torn and Restored card. Technically using 1.5 cards, but that's absolutely my favourite 1 card trick. It would have to be that. There's something really magical about doing a Torn and Restored card. With 2 cards, see, I can't have 2 card Monty or anything like that because you've got a deck in play, haven't you? It's just that there's 2 cards for the majority of the routine, whilst in reality. Okay, so there's a trick on the Netrix that uses just 2 cards, and it's like a transposition routine where, and I talk about metamorphosis, and I talk about subtrunks, and I talk about the Pendragons being the fastest at the subtrunk in the world, and I use 2 cards, one to represent Charlotte Pendragon, one to represent Jonathan Pendragon, and they change places inside the card box, and you just use 2 cards and a card box, and it's very, very visual. I would say that one. So that's on the Netrix, but if you don't get the Netrix, or you're not a Netrix member, I'd say that old trick Melt, where you've got a little black wallet and you open it up and one side's a king and you put the king on the spectator's hand, and then you take out the 6 of clubs, which is on the other side of the wallet, and you put that on the spectator's hand, and the spots vanish off the 6 and they appear on the back of the card that the spectator's been holding on to from the beginning. That's quite a good one as well, and very easy to do. Okay, 3 cards in my head immediately. I'm going to go 3 card Monty, the classic. No, I'm going to go for the Skinner 3 card Monty. That's what I'm going to go for. The Skinner 3 card Monty, which is still one of the best 3 card Monties of all time. I love the Skinner 3 card Monty. Peter Nardi recently revitalized it and has added some really seriously nice ideas to it. But I'm a huge fan of the Skinner 3 card Monty, and it just uses 3 cards. So that'll be 3 cards. 4 cards, I'm going to go for the 4 card trick. I've got my handling of the 4 card trick on the Netrix, but it's been around forever. The idea of, I'm going to show you a trick with 4 cards, and every time you count, You've got 5, and you go, oh, I don't know what's happening. You keep putting it away, and you keep putting it to one side and putting it to one side, and you've still got 5, and you've still got 5, and you've still got 5, and you end up having one card left, and the one card is a 4, and you go, oh, it's not because it's a 4-card trick, it's because it's a trick with a 4. That one, or potentially twisting the aces. I mean, it's a classic for a reason, right? It's an absolutely amazing trick. So I'd say twisting the aces. And with 5 cards, I would say one of 2, either Quinter Extreme from the Focus project that has just come out, where you just literally have 5 cards. You don't have to do it with movie cards, you can do it with regular cards, but you just have 5 cards on the table and you've made a prediction, and the prediction is 100% correct. Or if the other thing is from Netrix, I've got a really cool routine where I have 4 kings and I have a selected sign card, and the selected signed card goes inside the card box. The 4 kings go under the spectator's hand, and they change places as quick as a hiccup. So now you open up the card box and you've got the 4 kings, and when they look under their hand, they've got the signed selection. I'm very happy with the construction of that routine, and I perform it a lot. It's one of my 1,000 timers. So I'd say that for the 5-card trick. So yeah, there you go. It's a great question. Thanks for the question. Really interesting. Okay, Darren Gregg, first of all, has said that there's only one real Doctor Who, which is Tom Baker. And, it's difficult to argue with that. I would argue with it if I was here with you right now, but it's difficult to argue with. But his question is, I've been a keen amateur for 30 years, and I've never been interested in becoming a pro or even semi-pro. I've never been part of the magic community, and despite living in Blackpool, I've never been to the Blackpool convention. As a result, I've no idea how the magic industry works and don't even know any other magicians. This leads me to my question. I recently developed a technique or a system for divining a chosen word. It's a bit like Christian Grace's Enigma, but I feel it's far superior and has less as a process. It has taken me over a year to complete, and I was going to keep it to myself. I've now decided to try and release this. How do I go about it? I've absolutely no idea where to even start. Who do I contact? What's the process? If you can point me in the right direction, I'd be very helpful. Now, what you have here is you have what sounds like an absolutely incredible piece of mind reading. If you can replicate Enigma but without an app and have less of a process, then that can be something that every magician around the world would be interested in. I would consider partnering up with a production company for a couple of reasons. The first reason is they will be able to look at it and tell you if it's good or not. And they'll be able to tell you if it's original or not. And then they will be able to market it for you and produce it for you. If you don't want to do the tutorial, they will be able to do that, or you could do it alongside them and somebody else. They'll make things a lot easier for you. And yes, you have to pay for that, but it's worth it when you don't have to do the whole work in an industry that you don't know very well. So because it's a really kind of strong piece of mentalism, initially, my thought process would be Alakazam. Alakazam have always been known as the mentalism sort of shop, and they do a lot more now, but they still, Peter Nardi's got very encyclopedic knowledge about mentalism, as has Jamie Dawes, who works with Alakazam. Other places that are very mentalism focused are Mindhouse by Lewis Lavelle. He would be a great shout, as would D. Christopher and Jack from the 1914. Both of those guys, it'd be worth speaking to. And if you want to go to a bigger company, Penguin Magic are a great company to deal with, as are Vanishing Ink. Go to speak to Andy and Josh, and they'll be able to point you in the right direction as well with that. Murphy's are always a shout, but I don't know if this is right for Murphy's. I would start off potentially with Alakazam. Contact Pete Nardi. Tell him that Craig Petty sent you. Just tell him. He's very trustworthy. You can go to Pete with something and it will not go any further. I've shown him stuff that's being bought out through other companies and he's never said a word. So start off with Pete Nardi and then move on from there. But it sounds like you've got something really fresh. Congratulations. Whatever you end up doing with it, I hope it's successful. And if you want my advice any further, just ask a question on here or drop me an email. Okay, so the next question is from Leatherlips, who says, watch your channel often, thank you very much. Just picked up the bag reborn and I'm loving it. My question is this. Many tricks are marketed as self-working, or the gimmicks do all the work. Do you think magicians today are less talented as magicians of older generations because of this? Thinking of people like David Roth with his coin work, where he uses a lot of advanced sleight of hand, or Bill Malone and Ricky Jay with their advanced skills with cards. Thanks. It's a great question. I don't know if magicians these days are less talented. I don't think that's the case. I just think there's a lot more options for magicians these days, in that you can do so much more when you there's so many more different tricks available to purchase these days. It's no longer just, if you think about the old days, there was very few self-working tricks that you could go and buy. It was all about L&L DVD sets and A1 multimedia DVD sets and Vic Pinto's Tricker Tape. That's what it was all about. And it was about learning moves and sleights and so on and so forth. These days, a lot of production companies will tell you to approach the tutorial as if it's the first thing that a spectator... film the tutorial as if the person who's watching it has never seen any magic before, and this is the first thing that they're seeing, because, that very might be the case. So I don't want to say you have to dumb things down, because you don't, but in order to get people interested in the product, you have to make it accessible. And the fact is, there's a lot of hobbyists. I would hedge a guess that there's more hobbyists in magic right now than there ever have been. And a lot of these hobbyists, they just do stuff for fun. They don't want to do anything very complicated. They don't want to do anything that's going to take too much time and effort. They want to buy a trick, they want to learn how it's done, and they want to perform it and get that reaction, and then maybe buy another trick, and so on and so forth. Now, that's not to say everyone's like that. All you've got to do is look on Facebook and look in the various different Facebook groups, and you'll see people that are doing stuff with coins that I can't even begin to understand how they do that stuff. So I don't think that, honestly, that magicians are less talented. I just think that there's a bigger cross-section of magicians. I think there's more people in the industry now. I think there's more options available for people to buy stuff. I think the internet has made things more accessible. And I just think there's a lot of people that just want to come in and do self-working stuff, while there's other people that want to come in and, they want to learn sleight of hand. Then you get people like Matt, who has no interest in learning sleight of hand at all. And his focus and his thing is, hey, I want to go out and perform magic. I don't mind doing it with a stacked deck and an electronic dice, because I know that I can get away with that because of my performance skills. I do think that people are more entertaining. I think that the magicians these days generally have more knowledge about performing and how to engage an audience. I think that's become more of a prerequisite these days than it was in the old days. I understand why you think that maybe that's the case, but I don't think it is, to be perfectly honest. I think that the best magicians of today are a million times better of the best magicians from like 30, 40 years ago, because things have evolved. The techniques that people were using 30 or 40 years ago, we've evolved beyond that, and we've got brand new techniques that, Ed Marlowe and, Di Vernon wouldn't have even dreamed you could do 30, all those years ago. So, no, I don't think that's the case, but I can understand why you'd think that. Okay, so the next statement is from Kevin King, who says, I don't deal with the get to hit every table concept anymore. Too much pressure and it causes a rushed bad performance. Instead, I work bigger routines, think strolling and parlor. I focus on the VIP tables, making sure I hit different sections in the room, better magic and mentalism in the end. And that's great. That's the beautiful thing about being a pro. You can approach different scenarios in different ways. A lot of the gigs I work at, they don't have a VIP table. They'll have a management table a lot of the time at corporate events, but they don't want you to make a fuss of that table. They want to just make sure that everyone gets a chance to be seen. But I understand where you're coming from, 100%. There's no right or wrong. If it works for you, Kevin, then that's awesome. Okay, so the next question is from David W., who says, thanks, Craig, for your advice on gig fatigue and streamlining sets. You're more than welcome. My question this week is around your chop routine. After some weeks of practice, I birthed chop into my act at my residency. However, I'm finding the reactions a little flat. I know it's a strong routine, and I've been reflecting on why I think, and I have 3 theories. A, I'm talking too fast and the audience can't follow the action. B, the eye line on the table is all down and not all can see the ball when it arrives under the cup. And C, the Bill and Lemon ending is killer, but not always that practical. And I've seen your additional videos with other ideas, so I may try this. I've stopped doing it as I'm just confident. I have stopped doing it as I'm just confident with how it's landing and I need a bit of a confidence boost. Any tips? I'm thinking fewer phases or a different kicker ending. I'm also curious to see how it lands strolling and in the hands. Look, here's the thing, David. Not every trick can be suitable for every single individual person. I've seen routines. So, perfect example. I mean, I'm going to use stage as an example, but it's the perfect example. Dancing cane. I watched Ryland do Dancing Cane, and I say that because it's fresh in my head because we were at an event 2 days ago and he was doing the Dancing Cane in front of about 500 people. And he brought the house down. He got a standing ovation. And I know some magicians don't like the Dancing Cane. Other magicians do. That's not what this is about. It's become a signature trick for him, and he does it really, really well. Same with the flying linking rings. That kid will float anything and make it look great. I couldn't do that. Not in a million years. It's not because it's a bad trick. It's just I can't pull it off. I would never be able to stand on stage, do the floating linking rings, and make it look good. On the flip side, I can do Pop Hayden's linking ring routine and I can bring the house down because I've got the experience when it comes to comedy and audience management and crowd work and that sort of thing and dealing with the spectator up on stage, whilst Ryland would really struggle to do that sort of routine because he hasn't got the experience or the crowd work ability kind of in him. So different people and different performers gravitate towards different styles of routine. So the first thing I'd say to you is maybe chop's just not for you. It works for me. It works for a lot of other people, but it's not a problem if it doesn't work for you. The next thing I would say is streamline it down. Absolutely. I don't know how many phases you've got in there. I built my routine up over years to where it is right now. But I always say to people, start really simple. Start really simple. If you're worried, okay, so take your 3 issues or your 3 theories. Take the one about it being down on the table. Bring it up into the spectator's hands. Just have everything done on the spectator's hands. The cool thing about chop is it absolutely can be done in the spectator's hands. So have it up here. Do that first. That is the first thing that I would say. Bring everything up to eye level. Bring everything up. Have them hold their hands out. Chop will allow you to drop and vanish and produce a ball whilst it's on the spectator's hands. And there's very few chop cups that allow you to do that. So second of all, you're talking about the audience can't follow the action. Reduce the amount of phases or slow it down. The routine that I do with chop, I actually don't do it that fast. I do a lot of stuff fast. I don't do chop that fast. I make sure that everyone understands exactly what's going to happen. Hey, I've got this cup, examine it, check it out, make sure it's okay. I've got this pulled up dollar bill, make sure it's okay. Great, hold your hand out for me. The idea is I have to get this underneath there, say go, boom. Do you know what I mean? So reduce the amount of phases and make it really, really crystal clear as to what's going on. So the audience, because that's, and it's always the same with the multi-phase routine, whether it be ambitious card, card to pocket, chop, coins across, card under box, whatever it is, the list goes on and on and on. When you're doing a routine like this, the most important thing is to make sure that they can follow what's happening, because it's going to happen again and again and again. And once they get on board with that and they understand what's happening, that's when they can settle back and enjoy it. And then with regards to the ending, as I say, vary the ending up. Don't even use a bill. Use an AirPod and have the AirPod appear underneath the thing. And then, you know, the new AirPods, the Impossible, are perfect for chop. Absolutely perfect. Use those instead. Try those and see how that works for you. But I understand where you're coming from. I really do. And I understand why you've taken it out your act, and that's absolutely fine. My advice would be to rework it, shorten it, only use the moves initially that you're really comfortable with. If there's a move into, and the way I structured the tutorial is you get moves initially, and then you can talk about how you're going to incorporate them into your act. So, you know, start with the moves and figure out the moves that you're really happy with, and then go on from there. That's the biggest piece of advice I'll give you. We got a lot of Doctor Who related questions on this Q&A. Luke Jones says, man, I love Doctor Who. I love the Big Finish audio adventures. Peter Davidson is fantastic in them, and in Big Finish I find the stories darker and better. I agree. The Seventh Doctor is quite manipulative at times, and I'm thinking can he be trusted? Again, I agree. The Eighth Doctor is great. The Sixth is less bossy and moody in the Big Finish, and also quite caring to his companions. Haven't watched or listened to many of the Sixth Doctor on Big Finish, so perhaps I should. But do I agree that the Fifth is one of the easiest and most caring Doctors to be travelling with. My favourite is the Second Doctor, and modern day it's Peter Capaldi, followed closely by Matt Smith. Yeah, I would agree. I would agree with all of that. And yeah, the Second Doctor, Patrick Troughton, I think a lot of people underestimate him. But he is, I agree, a very good Doctor. Okay, so the next question is from Kev Dog, who says, hi Craig, I know this is a beginner question, but when you do close-up and you are table hopping, do you go back to your case every time? I'm currently just doing the same 5 tricks and rotating. No, I never go back to the case. When I get to the gig, I open up my case, I look at the gig, and I decide what I'm going to be putting into my pockets that night. And it varies from night to night. It varies from gig to gig. It varies from, you know, performance to performance. But I make sure that I've got a whole bunch of stuff in there that I can use for multiple different routines. So if I've got 4 coins in my pocket, I'm good for about 7 or 8 different routines. If I've got Keymaster in my pocket, along with Gatekeeper, I'm good for so many different routines. If I've got a chop pen in my pocket, I'm good for a whole bunch of routines. If I've got Focus in my pocket and a normal deck of cards, I'm good for a whole bunch of routines. So try to pick stuff that you put in your pockets that you can double up on. So I have in my back pocket a fibre optic set, but I also have a ring for Dave Williamson's ring and rope routine. So if I want to, I can do like a hyper ring style presentation, take out the fibre optic style ropes and go into go into Professor's Nightmare, then go into Hyperring, or go into Dave Williamson's ring and rope routine. Or I can take just the rope out and I can go into Professor's Nightmare, or I can go into fibre optics, or I can take the rope out and I can take the ring out, and instead of going into Hyperring or Dave Williamson's rope routine, I can go into like a Daryl style rope routine, or my routine off the Netrix, which is just one piece of rope and a ring and no extra rope. So it allows me to go in many, many different directions. You want to try and avoid going back to your case after every performance. You want to try and structure sets. I put a video on this online a good 2 years ago called Managing Set Lists or Creating Set Lists. Go look it up, type in Creating Set Lists, Magic TV, Craig Petty, and watch that video. I talk about how you can actually have all of your props and how you can create set lists so that you can vary your sets up from performance to performance, from group to group, without actually at any point needing to go back to your case. You really want to try, wherever possible, to avoid a trip to your case unless you absolutely need to. Okay, so the next question is from Mooney D, who says, hi Craig, first of all, thanks for your help as always. My question is, how do you go about planning out an hour-long show? That's a big question. That is one that I'm not going to answer right now. That's one that I'd be more than happy to put a video together on, but that's not one. This is going to double the length and time of the Q&A, because I'll just start talking and I just won't stop. Basically, start with an opening and a closing. You should really have a show, wherever possible, run full circle. So think about how you want your show to open. Think about how you want it to end. Think about your character in the show. Your character will dictate the type of magic that you do in the show. For example, if your character is, so for example, Lucy Darling. Everybody loves Lucy Darling, right? Incredible actress. Carissa Hendricks is a genius, right? We all know the type of magic and the type of way that Lucy Darling is going to perform. It's very unlikely you would see Lucy Darling do a hippity hoppity rabbit, for example. It's just not something that you would see her do. So your character is the same with Tom Crosby. You know, Tom Crosby is not going to be doing an illusion. He's just not, because that's not his character. His character is that of a performing nerd. So your character dictates the performance. Your character dictates what the material in the show is going to be made of. So start by working out what your character is. Start by working out the type of venues you're going to be performing in. For example, there's no point in planning an illusion show with big boxes and girls and fireworks if your average venue that you're going to be working is someone's living room or a small village hall. You know, you plan the show based around where you're likely to go and perform it. Now, over time, that might change and you might need to change the show up or create a different show. But when you first put this show together, have an idea of the type of venue you want this show to work in. So have an idea of the where you're going to be performing the show. Have an idea of the type of audience that's going to watch the show. Have an idea of what your character is, and that will allow you to put the show together. When you put the show together, you're going to be thinking about transitioning from one piece to the other. You're going to be thinking of hook lines, but that is all going to be tied into the audience. So for example, if the audience are kids and it's a kids show, your transitions and your hook lines will be completely different than if you're performing at a corporate show. So again, it comes back to knowing where you're going to be performing and the type of client you're going to be performing for. So get all of that information in place. I will put a video together on this for you. Now is not the time for that video. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely a process that you can learn, and I will definitely go through it with you. But for now, think about how the act is going to look. Do all of the research, do all of the foundational stuff right now, so that when you actually start putting the act together, it becomes a lot easier. Okay, so the next question is from Reese Whitehead, who says, "Hi Craig, I have a few questions. Maybe one of them can be covered in a special." Okay, what are the questions? What is your favourite trick this year of a Craig Petty trick by yourself? Focus. Absolutely 100% focus. Number 2, Craig Petty plus another. It's a great question. From this year. Wowzers. I want to say focus again because Phil Smith was involved in it, but I'm going to go for the Infinity Deck with Lloyd Barnes. Definitely the Infinity Deck by Lloyd Barnes. I was debating between a few, but it would definitely be the Infinity Deck with Lloyd Barnes. And a trick by someone else, but you did the tutorial. Vanishing card case. I am so honoured that I got a chance to do the vanishing card case for Nicholas Lawrence. I genuinely think it's Nicholas Lawrence's best trick. So yeah, it would be focus, Infinity Deck, vanishing card case. Yeah, so hopefully that helps. But I have got videos coming up over Christmas that's going to go more in depth with this sort of stuff. Okay, so the next question is from ACDF74, hello, who says, "I'm planning some gigs abroad and I want to bring some electronic props on the airplane. I will have to bring the chargeable props in my carry luggage. Do you know if that could be a problem? Think props like Ryland might use, blaze candles, X-light, etc. Small chargeable batteries, but built into strange props. Thank you for everything you do. I've learned a lot, thank you." Ryland is a nightmare taking through any sort of customs. I'll never forget the absolute shitstorm that we had to do getting to Penguin with his dancing cane, his light-up dancing cane. They wanted to take that thing apart. They wanted to hold on to it. It was an absolute nightmare. An absolute, complete and total nightmare. We try wherever possible to put the stuff like that in the hold. But if you have to put it in the hand luggage, be prepared to have your luggage pulled and be prepared to answer a few very, very, very strange questions. I think you'll probably get away with it okay, But I think that people are going to question it because it's so odd. But the answer, I'm a magician, I do magic, kind of covers everything. So, yeah, and look, from experience, I'm telling you right now, don't take a light up dancing cane through customs. It's not a good idea. Okay, so the next question is from Ray Eden, World of Magic, who said, I received cheater chips and heroes and villains last week. I'm really enjoying both projects. Thank you very much. Just a quick question for if stroke when people ask me. You have Rumpelstiltskin paired with Missy in the heroes and villains deck. I've scoured the internet, which means I went to Wikipedia, and I haven't been able to find reference for Missy being the miller's daughter's name. What is your source for the name Missy, or do you just cover the misnaming by saying most people don't know this? Sincerely interested, as the tale is around 4,000 years old and it's been told in many cultures. So yeah, it is very old, and I really wanted to include Rumpelstiltskin and Missy. There you go. I really wanted to include Missy and Rumpelstiltskin. And you're right, nobody knows the name. I love that when somebody picks Missy, they have no idea who it is. And I'm like, oh, you heard of Rumpelstiltskin? They have heard of Rumpelstiltskin. And you go, well, you know, it's the miller's daughter. Well, that's Missy. But if you type in Missy Rumpelstiltskin, you will see a lot of references. Now, the reference you're most likely to know about is there's a TV show that was very, very popular that ran for about 8 years called Once Upon a Time. Once Upon a Time was a reimagining of all of these Disney stories and kind of brought it bang up to date. It's a complicated thing. But as it says here, anyway, that's the first reference, but not the main reference. The main reference, there you go, is from Dramatic Publishing. If you go to dramaticpublishing.com and type in Rumpelstiltskin is my name, which is a full-length play based on Rumpelstiltskin. You can actually buy the script from Dramatic Publishing. You'll see there, synopsis, in this dramatization of the Rumpelstiltskin story, the miller's daughter, who is nameless in the Brothers Grimm fairy tale, is a pretty girl named Missy, who is often embarrassed by her father's constant bragging about her talents, which she doesn't have. Her sister, Sissy, is plain and intelligent and capable, but no one, even her parents, pays much attention to her. Rumpelstiltskin, although he has magical powers, is basically a lonely little man longing for someone to love him. The story follows the Grimm fairy tale very closely. Missy's father brags that she is so talented she can spin straw into gold, so the king asks her to spin her some gold, and she can't. The villainous captain of the guard threatens to invoke an old law which says anyone who lies to the king must put to death. When she is frantic with grief, the little old man appears and spins the straw into gold for her in exchange for a promise to give her a firstborn child. The king is so impressed with Missy's talent as well as her loveliness that he marries her. When her firstborn child is born, the little man comes to claim his part in the bargain. Missy begs him to let her keep the baby, and he makes one more proposition, that if she can discover his name within 3 days, she may keep the child. Blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to read anymore. So, yeah. If you ever get caught out on the presentation, which you shouldn't do, you just say, well, in the original Grimm fairy tale, this character didn't have a name, but later on, when it became a play and it became scripted and it was dramatized, they gave the character the name Missy. And there you go. And if you type in Missy Rumpelstiltskin into Google, not into Wikipedia, but into Google, you will see an awful lot of references to Missy. An awful lot. Oh, come on. I'm just gone onto a different page now that's talking about the theme of Rumpelstiltskin, and it's quite a detailed synopsis of the story, and they're talking about Missy being the miller's daughter on there as well. So there you go. That's where it comes from. It comes from a dramatization from the original Brothers Grimm story. Hope that helps. Okay, so the next question is from Archie Cox Magic, who says, when doing double Christmas revelation from Christmas cards, what do you do if one person thinks of a short title like Elf and the other person thinks of a long title like Nightmare Before Christmas? Because they will see you writing for a lot longer or shorter than the title of the film is. It's a great question. And this is exactly what I do. If they pick a film with a short title like Elf, I know 100% that the next film that they name, or the next film is going to be a little bit longer, right? So there's a couple of things that you can do. And the first thing is you can pretend to write something, cross it out, and then write Elf, which works really well. Because that kind of covers it, right? So when you're writing the other one, let's say they write Nightmare on Elm Street. So let's say they say Nightmare Before Christmas. You're writing Nightmare Before Christmas, but as you're writing it, you're pretending to scrub it out. Okay, if that kind of makes sense. Hopefully that makes sense. So when you're writing Elf, you're writing longer, but you're scribbling out what you wrote beforehand, but you're not letting them know that you've scribbled it out. From them, it just looks like you're writing something. And then the second person, you're pretending to scribble it out, but really you're not. Hopefully that makes sense. But it makes sense in my head. If not, just ask again. But I think you'll get it from there. I'm trying to be vague because obviously nobody, unless you've got Christmas cards, you won't have a clue what I'm talking about. But hopefully, Archie, that makes sense. Okay, so the next question is, do you think using the themes of influence and empowerment would work in the same routine? Or do you think the two wouldn't work together as they may not make sense together? By empowerment, you're talking about empowering a spectator to do something, while influence is you influencing the spectator to do something, right? I think they're very different things to each other. I think that if you are presenting what you're doing as an influence-based thing, I think it has to be all about the influence and what you're saying and doing. If it's about them being able to do the magic or the mind reading, and you are therefore empowering them, I think it has to be all about them being empowered to do that, not you influencing them to be able to do that. I think they're two separate things. I like the idea, but personally, I think they're two separate things. Okay, so the next question is from Archie Cox Magic again, who says, do you know of any tricks like a matching couple routine, but using two decks and two participants who shuffle and they both shuffle the decks into the same order? That Joshua J one, Joshua J brought out a trick that basically is that. And it uses a very clever deck switch. I can't remember the name of it. Bear with me, Archie. I'm trying to find... Good grief. Bear with me. Here we go. Right. I'm moving swiftly on. Is it? No, that's not it. Was it that one? I think it's the Trojan deck. That's it. The Trojan deck. Simultaneously simple. Yeah, it's not really a deck switch. I said it's a deck switch and it's not. Yeah, this is exactly what you want. Yeah. The Trojan deck by Joshua J and Vanishing Ink. It's in stock at Vanishing Ink. It's a very clever solution to exactly what you want to do. So look at the Trojan deck by Vanishing Ink. The next question is Adrian Suter, who said, recently Thea appeared on Magic TV a few times, and some months ago you said she was getting interested in learning magic. Is she still interested? And if yes, will we ever see a Hermione Granger act? Thea is getting into magic, big time. A little bit like Ryland in that she's gravitating more towards stage magic than close-up, and I think that's my influence. For anybody that doesn't know, every year my company does the entertainment package at the Drayton Manor Hotel. And we put a show on and we have different guest acts and it's always amazing. And this year we have an incredible lineup and we're very, very excited about it. And we are doing Ryland is doing a spot. Well, he's doing a couple of spots throughout the night. But one spot he's doing is doing a 15-minute illusion act with Thea. So he's doing the split press, he's doing the weightling soaring in half, and he's doing heads up with the 3 buckets. And Thea has been rehearsing non-stop for the last 2 months to be able to do this illusion show with Ryland, this illusion act with Ryland. Ryland's always wanted to have an illusion act with his own assistant, and Thea really wants to do it. So it's going to be her first time on stage. It's going to be very exciting. She's a bit nervous, but I think she's going to be absolutely amazing. So she is learning magic, and Ryland was naturally confident walking out on stage right from a very early age. Thea gets very nervous. So part of what we've been doing with Thea is giving her confidence performing on stage. That has been the big emphasis, that, and teaching her how to do all of the different illusions and so on and so forth. But yes, the first act that Thea's going to be involved in is New Year's Eve. So fingers crossed it's going to go well. I'll be comparing the whole night, so we'll see how things go. Next question is from David Blaine, who says, no question, just wanted to say I greatly appreciate what you bring to the magic community. Have a blessed and wonderful Christmas. Thank you, my friend. Thank you very much. And the same to you with sleigh bells on. Next question is from UK Navy Nige, who says, I've got a Buddha Okita coin box. When are you going to do a project on the coin box, please? Yeah, it's something me and Alec Azam are talking about. We're talking, I've got a coin box that I've designed that at some point will see the light of day, probably part of the elite coin range. And I'll probably save that project for all of my work on the Akito coin box. We're probably at least a year or 2 away from that point. But know that my work is going to go out there at some point. I've got a lot of unpublished work on the Akito coin box. And yeah, it will be published at some point as part of the elite coin range. Okay, next question is from Adrian Suter, who says, hi Craig, you said on the Q&A that choosing volunteers is an art in itself. I'd like to see a video on this art. I'm sure I filmed it. I'm sure I did. Yeah, I've done it. I did it a month ago. It went up. There you go. Bringing spectators on stage, how to do it best. It's a 25-minute, 27-second video with me talking about the best ways of bringing spectators up on stage. So it went up a month ago. If you type in bringing spectators up on stage hyphen how to do it best, I just typed in choosing spectators magic TV Craig Petty, and it came up. So that's a video that's been done. So you don't have to wait. It's there, Adrian. Go watch it now. Okay, next question is from Tom71, who says, what's going on with Muggle to Magician? Nails to the head with this question, maybe, but it's all silence. Thanks for your great effort, shows, entertainment and all. A lot of stuff, honestly, mate, has had to be put on hold over December. This is the first year that Matt has been like basically a full-time gigging magician. 2 years ago, we were in the middle of the Muggle to Magician thing, and he'd not really done anything. Last year, he'd started doing gigs, and he was going out and doing quite a few, but this year has been mental for him. It's been mental for me. The company as a whole has had lots more gigs on than ever before, so we've been very, very busy. We haven't even had time to do a mat test. I'm barely having time to do these videos. I said to Michael, these videos are going to get done. I promise people that I'm going to put these videos up. They are going to go up. They're going to get done. But honestly, it's been very, very difficult this month to juggle. I think we've probably got about 2,500 events going on this month, with hundreds of magicians and entertainers and kids entertainers going out all over the UK. I've probably done about 40 to 50 gigs myself this month. It's been very difficult to manage. And on top of that, I've had to do all of these videos. So it's been very difficult. And when I'm in the office, Matt's not in the office, and so on and so forth. The good news is we have filmed a mat test. It went up on Thursday or Friday this week. I say that because it's not up yet and we haven't finished the schedule. But we have filmed a mat test, and the blockumentary will be coming back and will be getting finished. But it's probably going to be January that we finish that off. But thank you for asking. And I promise you, we've not forgotten about you or anybody else on Magic TV. Okay, so the next question is from Matt Bradley, who says, Craig, this time last year, you were talking about releasing the Quantum Deck 2. Working title, I know. Did that ever come out? Was that maybe Destiny deal? And Andy Cooper has replied saying, I saw Craig performing the Quantum Deck 2 at Wayne Goodman's convention last month. It goes by a different name. It'll be worth it. It'll be worth the wait. A draw-droppingly good trick. Trick of the year 25 is a done deal, in my opinion. Yeah, I agree. For anybody that was at the Newmarket Magic Convention and you haven't seen it, it's my favorite trick, and it's, you know, I've been testing it. The reason why nobody's heard anything about it is because it takes me a couple of years to bring this stuff out. When you see it come out, I've been working this for a long time. I know a lot of magicians will have a brain fart, and then a couple of weeks later, they will literally release something to the magic community. I don't do that. It takes me a long time to get from conception to release, and I work it a lot. And the Quantum Deck 2, which is now called the Atomic Deck, has been worked a lot. The good news is it is coming out sooner rather than later. It will be coming out in 2025, and I guarantee you it will be coming out before the end of the first quarter 2025. And however good it sounded in the description, it's better. Okay, so the next question is from Stephen Devereux, who says, Hi Craig, thanks for everything that you do. Is the stage version of Frozen in Time as good as the close-up version? Yes. As long as you want to perform on stage, as long as you're wanting it to perform on stage, then yes, it's fantastic. As long as you know, the effect is the effect. It looks just as good on stage as it does close-up, 100%. Okay, so the next question is from Divishan Magician, who says, I have an idea for a trick where I do a crash link and then I genuinely teach the audience how it works. I show there's a hole in the side of the ring, but then like in Silk to Egg, I end by peeling the hole off the sticker and linking it again. This would be by switching the normal rings for a GIR or a locking mechanism. Do you think this is a good idea, or do you think it's unfair on other magicians, as it would mean exposing a normal locking rings method on stage, normal linking rings method on stage? I don't think that's a great idea, to be honest, Divishan. I really don't. I think that maybe if you show me a video, and I might be wrong, maybe it is, but I don't think you should ever put into the spectator's mind. Right, here's the thing, right? When you do Silk to Egg, nobody actually thinks of a hollow egg. I've done Silk to Egg a million times. I've actually done Silk to Egg as a trick, and people are blown away by it. Nobody thinks hollow egg, silk has gone inside the hollow egg, ever. When you bring out linking rings, if somebody was to think of the method, they're going to think of a gap in the ring. And so you want to try and remove any presentation away from what the spectator is thinking, at least in my opinion. I think that's dangerously too close to... Now, maybe I'm wrong. I mean, I've seen Penn and Teller do the cups and balls and then do it with clear cups and blow people away. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you need to try it. But I don't think it would work as well as you think it will. And I also think you're going to have a lot of magicians. Linking rings is very near and dear to the heart of a lot of magicians. And I think you'll have a lot of magicians come down on you like a heavy weight if you start doing that in shows, or at least that's just my opinion. Because what you're doing is you're saying to people, hey, this is how, here's a trick. Hey, this is how it works. And then you're doing that thing at the end to show that that's not how it works. But the problem is the next time they see a magician doing the linking rings, I don't know. I think you're on the wrong path with this one. I don't know. Try it. Let me know what you think, but I'd be careful. Okay, next question is from M Mills S6T, who says, Hi Craig, as always, thanks for the content. You're more than welcome. My question, when Pool Ball Mingles was released originally, what size pool balls were included? They were smaller than normal pool balls. I remember the reason I got roped into that travesty of shitness is because Jim Trainer, rest in peace, bought a metric ton of pool ball sets to World Magic Shop, and he'd found them like from a company that had gone bankrupt, and he bought them for pence. So he had hundreds and hundreds of pool balls, and it was like, what are you going to do with that? And he asked me to put a routine together for it, and I ended up putting a bunch of routines together for it. And yeah, I think it's probably the worst thing I've ever bought out. There were one or two good ideas on there that I still use to this day, but honestly, the majority of it was not great. The majority of it was just a bit shit. But there were smaller balls as well. They were from like kiddie ones, not ridiculously small, but a lot smaller than normal pool ball, which was actually quite good because it meant that they were easier to palm than normal pool balls. They were actually a lot easier to palm, and that was a big selling point of these pool balls. But no, generally, it wasn't a great trick. Okay, so the next question is from Ian Walton, who says, "Hi Craig, not a question, but wanted to let you know that Bag Reborn is amazing. If anyone is interested in getting into coin magic, or if you want to add to your existing repertoire, this is an outstanding release. This is my favourite release this year. Hope you and your family have a lovely Christmas." Man, thank you very much. He's then added, saying, "Actually, I do have a small question. Will you ever release an Akito or similar box project? I think this would be a great addition to the Elite coin range, especially with boxes designed by yourself and Alakazam. If not, could you suggest a decent Akito box to add to my Elite coin collection?" Like I said earlier, a coin box project is coming as part of the Elite coin range. But I've got the next two that I'm already working on. So if you think about it, we've got Mirage, Apparition, Nightshade, Bag Reborn, Trebloon. I don't know what else is going in the Elite coin range. I know that there's at least one other thing that's nothing to do with me that's going in there. But I've got number 6 and number 7 that I've already started putting together and finalising that will probably come out in 2025. So anything to do with the box would probably be 2026. But I've got the design of the box. I've got the prototype sitting on my desk in there. It's amazing. It's unlike any coin box you've ever seen before. But, you know, there's a process before that thing comes to mind. So there you go. That's another Q&A in the bag. Thank you once again for joining me here on Magic TV, and thank you for asking so many amazing questions. I really appreciate it. I've got to go now because we've got a gig to go to, but there's going to be a lot of Christmas content. I have worked my butt off to make sure that there is at least one video going up every single day over Christmas. So you're going to see a lot of content from Magic TV over Christmas. If you haven't already done so and you want to buy a Christmas present for yourself, subscribe to the Netrix. TheNetrix.com. It's my online streaming platform for magicians. I would love you to be a part of the family. And don't forget, if you haven't already done so, set your calendars, 25th of December, the Penguin Christmas Holiday Special. And you will see me and Eric Tate and Carissa Hendricks doing what we do best. And I think that people are going to really enjoy it. Outside of that, I'll see you again soon. Thank you so much for joining me. My name's Craig, and this is Magic TV.